Hey guys, what's up? We're back. Today is Allie and Miles Day, except where Allie isn't here, and I'm covering her shows as well. So my top four shows, first of all, are Crown 2008 with Finis, Blue Devils 2015, Inc., Cabbies 2019, The Wrong Side of the Tracks, and SCV 2017, Ouroboros, is if that's how you pronounce it. I always forget. And Allie's shows are Kinetic Noise, SOS, Out of This World, and Relentless, which are also shows that I absolutely love. So this is going to be great. First thing I want to go through is Finis, which is well, does anybody have anything to say about it first? Has anyone actually seen Finis before?
I have. I've seen it like a few times. I haven't. It's not one of my favorite Crown shows, but I do respect what Crown put out that year. It's a great performance by Carolina Crown that year. I like that show. It's probably
Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
It's probably in like the top 8 Crown shows of mine.
Yeah. I have to say, it definitely contributed to making 2008 one of the best years in DCI. I probably said this before, but I think Finis is the reason that Crown is so well known. That first opening hit is really impactful because you really didn't think that they were going to get that much louder up to that point, and then they did, and it was a lot louder and just a lot more powerful. But actually getting into the show, a lot of it is classical music, but the way it's arranged is just I can't say it's perfection, but it's just so satisfying the way they do it. Especially when I talk about the closer, everything from the 1812 overture to the end of that show is so beautiful. Like a lot of it you don't ever see coming because like they have a tempo change right out of the overture of 1812, even though that's where you think the show is ending, and it's not, and they just have a whole entire separate segment. And I think I'd like to think that there was some inspiration from it in Avon 2019, especially the last 20 seconds of it. If any of you guys know what I'm talking about, with their final chord, where they go from a E flat to a B flat. But yeah, I really love that show. I think it was very iconic for Crown, and the percussion was also really good. Their pit was really clean. The battery wasn't as clean, but the pit definitely was. They threw it down that night, and that's a really enjoyable show. Matt and I only really found out about it 2 months ago, but it's just grown on me that much because I find it that good. And let's see, they ended up in third place? I could be wrong on that, so someone correct me. It sounds like they were. No.
I'll look that up right now. Someone else can say their piece on it, though.
Yeah. How does everybody else feel about Finis?
I kind of agree with you with the whole it's kind of surprise ending, and then also they have all these classical music, but they kind of modernized it, changed it to a different way. I feel like they kind of changed the whole all right, we're gonna take New World Symphony, or we're gonna take Bruckner, and we're gonna change it into this, and we're gonna do this with it, kind of that kind of stuff. We're always trying to evolve and innovate the pageantry arts. From whatever you're doing, because everything is an idea from something usually, the whole electronics or whatever it could be. You always kind of get ideas from other shows, even if you don't really realize it. You might just completely, let's say, I really loved all the 3-part trumpet stuff in Bluecoats 2015. I want to change it into this with the baritones or whatever, you know what I mean? It's always kind of innovation that we always kind of strive for when you're going for these top 12 shows, kind of. So I thought that was kind of one of those shows where it's kind of different, and you see something that you never really you saw it before, but it's kind of oh, this is way different than before,
Mm-hmm. They got 4th place, by the way. That was that.
4th place. Okay, so 2009 was the year after was their first time actually medaling. But I like 2008 a lot better. So yeah.
I'm going to be completely honest. I really haven't seen much of Finis. I mean, it's the Crown show, so I can only expect that there's going to be a killer breast section. There's going to be power chords. There's going to be mellophone riffs. But I'm gonna add that to my list of what I want to watch. My DCI shows that I want to watch. So
You should.
Yeah.
You should. It's a good show. Jaelyn,
Yeah.
awesome.
you got any?
I was just thinking of watching it that I need to get out of my head that newer is better, because even though
Right.
the show isn't the oldest, it is over 10 years. And again, like you said, the front's crazy clean, just like something that our band would strive for to be like. And it's 12 years old. So I thought that was cool.
So you want to take us to your next show, Miles?
All right, I'm going to save Ink for last out of my 4 because I know that's going to get heated once we do talk about it. So I'm going to say that for last for now. We're going to go to Wrong Side of the Tracks, which is, wow, in the past 2 months that show's grown on me. First of all, where to even start? So the first time I saw the show, it was actually in person. The Cavaliers were practicing at a high school near me in Loudoun County, and I went to go see them. And the first time I went to see them practice, they didn't even play, but I was so blown away by their drum line being up close with them, because that drum line was extremely underrated. I saw the front ensemble practicing the part where they do the 9-lip hit splits, which I didn't think was possible the way they did them, but they still did them, and it was beautiful. Most of the time, I actually watched the front ensemble because they were just mesmerizingly good. I don't know if that's a word, but I believe it is. The pit was extremely good. Second time I went back to watch them, the horn line actually played that time, and that's when I was just absolutely blown away. And the first thing they played was the ballad, and that ballad is by far my favorite DCI ballad ever. If you've seen it and you want to know what the song is, it's called Cathedral by Thomas Newman. It's from a movie soundtrack, but I'm forgetting the movie currently. It's very good. It's kind of a short ballad, but it's really good, and the pit blends in absolutely perfect with it. And the way there's this timpani entrance into the ballad hit, and it's just so freaking good. Like maybe the show isn't as good as I think it was, but I've spent so much time watching it, being there, like watching the Cavaliers in person, that it's just really grown on me, and there's a lot of memories that come out of it. And so yeah, that's a big show for me. Anyone else?
I think that show in general is actually my favorite Cavalier show, because a lot of the Cavalier shows are sort of like hit or miss for me, but I did like what they put out this last year, and I respect everything they did in the show. I do like their brass line was great that year. Their percussion section was, it's a world-class drum corps. Like it's a great show. My favorite Cavalier show personally. So I do agree with you, Miles. This is a great show, and it's actually grown on me for the past 4 months, I think, because I wasn't a fan of it during like the season, but then like after season I started listening to it more, and it started getting to me now. So I do agree that Cavaliers that year is my favorite show for Cavies.
Yeah, and I think compared to other years, sorry, Owen. I think their horn line definitely showed up compared to previous years. Like that's a kind of a big comeback for them. So yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the show for the first time live in, I think, the Chester show in Pennsylvania, and that was really nice. I always knew that the Cavaliers had a really good pit, and they didn't have the best horn line, but they've always had a really good pit, but I didn't know that it would be that cool seeing their pit. It's just being able to see someone do those runs physically in front of you that quickly and that perfectly. It's just so cool. I've always this was when I was still mainly a percussionist, and I was just starting to learn four mallets, and this was I would say that seeing this show was one of the biggest inspirations in terms of me practicing and getting better at four mallets. But it was a really cool show. I love the concept. I think it was the second or third show that we saw at that showing in the lineup. Sadly, the other three were rained out So they were marching in standstill. Well, not marching. They were performing in standstill. But the Cavaliers show definitely stuck with me, especially the vocal samples that they had leading up and progressing the storyline. Eventually, at the end, was there is only one guarantee. What was the line? There was only
one guarantee. None of us will see heaven.
Yeah, that's it. And that really stuck with me. Like, I mean, even if I can't remember it, but
Yeah.
I definitely remember that sample being like a really big, like, emotional point, and then they just end it, and it's such a powerful, like, message into the ending of their show, and that really was nice to see.
I actually, this, my first and only time really only seeing this live was at finals. So, how, did they get 5th place, I think?
5th, yeah.
Yeah, they were one above Boston, so yes.
Okay, I know Crown got 4th because I personally thought Crown should have gotten 3rd, but anyways, I really liked their show. I thought it was really cool. They announced it while I was driving through the Smoky Mountains in Tennessee, or the first time I really heard about it. I was like, huh, interesting. That's kind of cool, though. I'm not going to lie. That seems interesting. And that kind of seems something like the Cavaliers would do.
Seems like he sort of lagged out, so I'm going to put him on mute because his connection got lost. But so I guess we'll move on. Mitchell, you are laggy, so we're going to move on from you. So, Jaelyn, do you have any words to say, or Isaac, about the Cavaliers this last year?
Well, I believe my drumline percussion director is one of the guys from them. I think he played bass drum, but I know from experience how amazing they are because he is just this insane player and teacher, and it's crazy what they do. He talks about them all the time, but
Isaac? Any of you?
I have a short note. I was lucky enough to see their horn line in the lot. They weren't actually playing on their horns, they were just buzzing. But even though they were just buzzing, the chords still spoke in, like, a really great way. And, like, usually buzzing isn't the most pleasant sound to hear. But because they just knew exactly how to, like, make their instruments work, it was just such an amazing experience. And that was the first time I ever saw a core in a lot. And that was just really cool. And I was with my my brother and my dad at the time. My dad has no musical experience, but my brother is also a percussionist. And my dad was like, why aren't they playing? Why are they just doing that thing? Where are their instruments? And it was cool to be able to experience that. Like, you see what they have, like the bones of their music, and then you go into the stadium and you get to see what they actually have. And it's just a really great showcase of their ability. And I really like that.
Mm-hmm. Isaac?
All right. So for me, absolutely love the ballad. Not one of my favorites, but it is really, really beautiful. Really, really love the arrangement of it. Really, really nice job. Obviously, we talked about the front ensemble being incredible that year. I do like the show. It is not one of my favorites, but I do like it. For me, I'm kind of an old Cavaliers fan. I like the 2000, 2002, stuff like that, you know. I do like the closer. I think the closer is really, 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 really good, actually. Just for me, I guess, not everything stood out the whole show, so it wasn't one of my, like, you know, top. But, I mean, it's a good show. I mean, I like it. It's just not one of my favorites.
Miles, you want to take us on to your next show?
Indeed, I do. Next up, we got, well, straight up my favorite show, Santa Clara Vanguard 2017.
Yes.
Ouroboros. This show. Oh my God, there is nothing else like this show. I don't think there ever will be. People say Babylon is kind of like an Ouroboros too, and I would see that because of the opener. But no, it just doesn't come close. There is nothing else with this show. Every single part of the opener ballad closer, it takes a turn, and nothing in there, like especially each hit, isn't expected. The beginning of the opener just straight up starts with just one loud blaring note, and it's immediately the pit going ham on 16th notes, and then they go from there. They do a little sequence of that from straight up going into Triumph of Time, which I think out of them, Blue Devils, and Hebron 2019 was my favorite usage of Triumph of Time.
Yes.
Despite them barely even using it that much of that movement, it was so visually and musically spectacular.
Yes.
The way they pulled that off, that I don't think anyone can ever top the way they did that. And then going into the rest of the opener, the end of I like to say it was movement 2. I think there's 3 movements before the ballad, and I think the end of movement 2 is probably my favorite part, when they just end on this gigantic G minor chord. I think it's G minor. I could be wrong on that. Music theory people correct me. But they end on this chord that's like it's just good. You know, it's so hard to explain it, but like the way it hits you is just so unexpected, and the way they blast into that chord, it's just so amazing. And then I don't really like the ballad as much. It was definitely a different type of ballad than you're ever going to see. I'd have to relate it most to probably Kinetic Noises ballad. But I didn't like it that much, but it's still really good. And then out of the ballad, they just have this enormous bass drum break. It's kind of hard to hear because they kind of mute their bass drums. But if you like really listen, you could hear the like bottom 3 basses just lighting it up down there. And then they go into a little percussion break there. I don't even know if it's the actual drum break or not. But then that to the closer is just straight up spectacular. They one of the biggest hits before the closer includes this flag feature, which in my opinion is the reason they won guard that year, because that's probably got to be the greatest flag feature I've ever seen, and the way they did the drill around it was like perfect. And then you get to the closer, which is blanking on it right now, but like you get to the end of that closer. Oh wait, no, I completely forgot about the other thing, which is that they have this brass feature, which is just like, it's got to be maybe 40 seconds of double tonguing, and it gets more and more like intense until they just hit you with this giant chord. The first time I heard it, I was listening with headphones, and it was really loud, and it scared the crap out of me. I jumped really hard because that chord hit so hard. And they never actually sustained it. It just kind of faded out at the way they played it, and I thought that was absolutely beautiful. And then, so going into the end of the closer, all closers that end in a key of F, I absolutely love. That's why I love the closer for Fellini-esque so much as well. But this closer is... wow, it's so spectacularly good. There's just, you can never tell how much music is actually going on in it. It's hard to explain unless you really watch it. And then they've always got about 4 things going on visually on different parts of the field throughout the entire show. It's hard to really explain what the show is about. I know that they were doing it. It had something to do with, I believe, their 50th year as being a corps. But it was just so well executed, and the percussion, probably one of my favorite SCV drum lines. No, straight up my favorite SCV drum line, definitely. Like, if you listen to the percussion recordings that Paul Rennick puts out, you'd see why. You can find those on YouTube, and yeah, it's just so good. And hopefully we might see another show like that. I doubt we will, because after 2018, I believe Vanguard got a new director, so I believe they're going in a slightly different direction. So we'll see, but that's probably my favorite show ever made. And so yeah,
okay, So that was probably one of my favorite SCB shows, especially in the 2010s. Obviously, I love 2018 just a little bit more, but I do love Ouroboros so much. I think from start to finish, like you said, the music is just insane and incredible. The double tonguing section, I wish I could. I mean, I can double tongue pretty well, like, I'm not gonna lie, but the double tongue for a good, 45, 50 seconds, and then lay a huge chord, like, that's insane. Like, oh my gosh. And then not to mention, this is probably one of my favorite shows to conduct as well. Like, I love conducting this show. Like, it's so much fun, so much energy to it. It's just, and then the ballad with the baritone solo is so beautiful, and it's, oh my gosh. Every little part about the show is so good. It's just, I mean, it's really, really good. I have really no complaints about it. Love listening to it. Gavin knows I'll put it on my huge boombox JBL speaker and I'll blast it around the house. Like, it's just, oh, it's so good. And the brass sound was really hitting it that year too. All right,
This is
all right, so
Mitchell.
who wants to go?
You can go on ahead, Mitchell.
Ouroboros is kind of cool. I liked it. I'm gonna go back to the Triumph of Time. So, yeah, I'm gonna be honest. It wasn't my favorite rendition of it. I personally think that if it was for me, like, my top three bands that used it, like, in specific order, would be Hebron, then Blue Devils, then Vanguard. It just didn't seem. It seemed like for me that Hebron just came out with the Triumph of Time, just a blasting, booming brass sound. Same with Blue Devils, but slightly less. And then Vanguard just right behind that, for me at least. But it was still a really good show. I actually really enjoyed Ouroboros. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, Ouroboros is just a great show that, like you guys have been saying, the brass line that year was great, and with the double tonguing, insane. And I personally believe that, like, Ouroboros, who won that year? That was Metamorph. So that's a very hard, like, decision, because that was such a great show as well, and I think that any core could have taken that last night. But I'm on Metamorph side. I do love Metamorph. That is my favorite show for Blue Devils. But with Ouroboros, just the overall, like, way they did the show, the people on the props, like, playing their parts, it was a great idea, and I think they executed it very well, and that's one of my favorite SCV shows.
if I'm going to be 100% honest here, if you took that show with that core and you put it in a whole bunch of other different years, they probably would have won.
I was just thinking that. I was thinking if they put...
For me, the Triumph of Time, the two battles between those two cores in that year, it was just, so close. And, I love Metamorph so much, but that, those two, performances were so close together in finals that it was really hard for me to... I mean, I was not a fan of Ouroboros up until the, finals, really. And it just... I don't know, something clicked, and I was like, man, this is actually pretty good. I didn't realize how good this was, I guess. And
I mean,
it was the whole, I didn't want to see SCV go up top for a while, but then as soon as I did, I was like, well, why wouldn't I want them? They're great core. They have a totally different style from everybody else. For me, it's just you could have put that show in a whole bunch of other years, and it probably would have won. That's kind of the end of the day. That's probably what would happen.
Yeah, I got to say that I think I could be very wrong on this, but I believe that if they had kept the same music and put the Babylon theming on that, because the music generally follows the same type of pacing, I think if they had put the Babylon theming on that, they would have won 2017. I really believe that they would have, because
honestly, I could see that.
I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure the win really came down to general effect, because SCV had them in guard and percussion, and Crown had music, obviously, with brass, and then Blue Devils had visual and general effect.
Yep.
And I think if they had the general effect like Babylon, then they really would have just won it.
was,
Yeah, that's how we feel about that.
All right.
Is it that time? Does anyone else have anything to say about Ouroboros? All right, I guess it's that
okay.
Oh,
No, go ahead.
go ahead, Bishop.
I was gonna say, because I had the privilege of watching in finals, in person. I thought that was a really cool. I mean, I really hadn't seen Vanguard because they really didn't come out to the East Coast or the Central Midwest really until finals. Blue Devils went out early season, but Vanguard didn't. So I really hadn't gotten to see them. But looking back on it, that was a really cool experience, and watching that show, I really enjoyed.
I guess you can
All
move
right.
to the next show, which is the fight show.
All right, fellas, we're gonna fight. So first of all, who has something good to say about it? Oh my God, I'm all alone. Okay.
No. I really liked Ink. I wouldn't say it's like one of my favorite shows, but I definitely liked it as a show. I wish that they had more like feature on the on like whoever was soloing or like the screamer. I remember a couple portions in the beginning where they had a screamer and it was like really quiet in comparison to the rest of the core, and you couldn't really hear it. Or maybe that was just the recording I was listening to.
I'm pretty sure they had a microphone failure. I know what screamer you're talking about.
Yeah.
There's multiple recordings of that show, and other ones the screamer is actually very well heard.
Okay, so yeah, it must have just been I was watching a show where the mics were acting up. But I really liked the like the very first hit that they actually have with the
trumpet.
Yeah. With the like no, it was full core, I think, wasn't it? It was just the full core. It was just one like really staccato like
oh yeah. That.
Yeah, and I really liked that. And then but it wasn't like a chord. Like well, I mean it was a chord. It wasn't like a long sustained hit. It was just like a duh, and then they just went into like a snare feature. And I really liked that because usually you get the first hit, you have the build up, and then you have the big long sustained chord. But it was just short. And it was short and it was sweet and it was done in good taste. And I think the surrounding context of the composition and visually, it really aided in pulling off that short hit.
Yeah. All right. So before everyone starts attacking me about loving Ink so much, I want to talk. I don't feel like people really understand what Ink is about. I feel like everybody was just like, Crown's cool. We hate the Blue Devils now because Inferno was really that good. But in my opinion, I really do think Ink and Kinetic Noise are better, actually, but I'll get into Kinetic Noise later. So Ink, I'm pretty sure it's from an author's perspective of writing a fairy tale book. And I think that with every word he's writing, the ink that he's putting on the paper is on the paper is coming to life, and the entire show is an illustration of that writing. And so you can really tell, because you can tell it's definitely like a children's book perspective, because even when they're doing the first forms, I believe as soon as they hit that as soon as they do that trumpet hit, which is the part that sold me on that show immediately, they spell the ABCs with the drill. And I think that's really crucial to the show because it somehow sets a really dark and intense tone for a children's book, which you really don't expect because it's supposed to be a children's book. But they managed to do that, and I don't know. It's really hard to explain unless you really just watch it and understand it. And to me, literally the entire opener is awesome. Even the dance break, the K-pop thing, and if you didn't know that it's K-pop, get over it. It is. That's actually the drum break, where the snares just go absolutely ham, and I'll get into the percussion next. And I don't know, all of the music they play, in my opinion, is just really good. I don't think there's a part where any of the music gets boring or gets away from you. I stayed with it the entire time. As for the ballad, I absolutely love the ballad, but I especially love when they're about to finish off a B flat chord and then it just goes to complete silence and then the trumpets just come in with heat for a moment, and then the baritones come in, and then it's the full horn line, and they just have a really satisfying end to the ballad. And then we get into the closer. The closer is kind of short because the opener was really long, but the closer's kind of short, and it's mostly going over all the music it's kind of just going over all the music that was played throughout the rest of the show, and then it just goes into takes a lot of tempo changes, and then it goes into the final hit, which they changed that about 3 times, but in my opinion, the final one was by far the best one, and there's just so much absolutely going on with it, and I know people really do feel conflicted about them having a 7-year-old girl in the show or whatever it is. I don't care. It's a really cool addition. It's general effect. It worked. They won. So I'm not going to hate them for that. But also the reason they won, their percussion. Now, their percussion is really hard to hear, first of all, which I don't know why, because they use pearl drums, and those are probably the loudest drums ever. But if you literally just look up a video of their drum line, you'll see what I'm talking about, and you'll see why they won percussion. Even if you just listen to their bass drums, it's not the cleanest thing ever, but the way the drums are tuned and the music that they played, I don't think they've played music like this ever since. But the way they played this is it's just so well. Every dynamic is just beautiful, and they were so accurate on time that at one point they added in a split vocal down the snare line where they would introduce themselves to the judge. Like every single snare line player would say, every single player would say one syllable of it, and I thought that was really funny. Anyways, their front ensemble literally just 16th note runs, clean 16th note runs throughout the entire show. Just absolutely spectacular pit. And I feel that this show is extremely overhated. I can see why people would hate it, because people have opinions about who should have won in 2015. But I really think it came down to percussion in the end, because, well, percussion was up to that point was a 3-way tie during semifinals. It was a 3-way tie between Blue Devils, Cadets, and Vanguard. And I think if Blue Devils slipped in percussion in any way, shape, or form, then Crown would have won. So I really got to give it to the drumline there for pulling through and probably winning the finals. But overall, I do think the show did it too, the rest of the show. And so, yeah, you may now expose me.
Okay, so like I said with 18 and 14, the show didn't touch me in a way. I didn't like it. And I also feel Ink was also very overrated. I know you said, like, overhated. I agree that it's on both spectrums, but I also think that it was very overrated in the sense that tons of people think that, and I'm not saying this is because of me, tons of people think either Crown should have won or Bluecoats should have won, since those were great shows that year, and every core that year sort of brought it to the table, and just especially those 3 shows everyone like thought of the most. But like Ink, I just didn't like it. I don't know what about it exactly, but I just did not like it.
Well, I mean, did Kinetic Noise speak to you more than Ink? Because I feel like the reason Kinetic Noise didn't do that well is because the general effect was kind of like
it was there, but it wasn't.
Noise. Yes, the general effect was there, but it didn't like speak to you as much. Like it was cool.
To me, it
but
did.
Like it wasn't. It didn't really project anything to me as much as Ink did.
It's not always about the general effect.
Blue Devils can take a concept and just completely morph it into something beautiful and wonderful. And like, I'm not saying the Bluecoats didn't do that, but like, it wasn't as meaningful to me as Ink was.
It's also not always about the general effect, though. It's about the music and the overall drill. That's what touches me.
Yeah, of course.
I don't care about general effect.
And I also think that the drill in Ink was just absolutely. Everybody did great drill that year. So
yeah, like
still,
I just think like I loved Bluecoats music. I just loved the way they performed their show that year. Their ballad, such a great ballad. But like that, Ink wasn't my favorite that year. Maybe it was because of Inferno and Kinetic Noise, but like I just was not a fan of Ink. I don't care who won between Bluecoats or Crown, but I don't think Ink deserved it in my opinion. But that's just me.
I will admit I was actually personally against Ink when I first heard about what went down in 2015, because like I would watch a bunch of the recaps of stuff, and then once I saw that they announced that the Blue Devils won, it was like half confused cheers and then just half people booing all throughout the stands. So people were really upset about that, and so my immediate reaction was like, well, the Blue Devils suck. And then my friend made me reluctantly listen to Ink, and I was like, yo, the Blue Devils don't suck. This is really good. And so, yeah, I do get where you're coming from, where it's like, it's hard to not feel as if there was some unfairness going on, but in my mind, there wasn't. But yeah, I get it.
Whoever wants to take it next.
Okay, so fun story. I didn't go to DCI finals, but I watched it in theaters, and it was semis. I was watching all the shows, and we started to get to know top, Crown, Blue Devils, Bluecoats, all that. And obviously my parents were like, hey, this is where it gets, really, really good. Like, you're going to start really loving the shows. And I was like, oh, yeah. Watched Crown, loved it. I thought that was the most amazing show I'd ever seen in my life, right? Obviously, Little Isaac, I never remembered the whole, the first part of my life. So I never remembered Cadets 2000 shows until my dad, re-showed them to me when I was older. But Blue Devils comes on. I fall asleep within the first 30 seconds. And I kid you not, I stayed asleep until the closer. Now, I will say, I have rewatched it many, many, many times since then. And I think the music itself is I think it's intricate. I think it's smart how they wrote it. It never really came across as something special, I guess. It was clean. It was good. They executed it well. It just didn't really hit that, special moment that other cores have done in the past and stuff like that. But that's just me. I think the show premise is smart, but I think they kind of overthought the idea to the point where not everybody got it, and that's why I think that's one of the reasons why it's not as liked as it could have been, which isn't really bad on their part. I mean, they were trying to be detailed about it, which is great, but obviously when that happens, the show decreases in entertainment, I guess you could say. But yeah, that's kind of a funny story that I fell asleep during that performance. So.
That's hilarious.
All right, so my turn. I really actually enjoyed Ink. It really wasn't. I really liked just the entire from beginning to close. I really didn't have any really big issues with it. I mean, the brass were awesome. The percussion was killing it. I think it was justified in its placing. But, as everyone knows my opinions, I have very radical ones that people don't always agree with at all. So, but Miles, I'm with you there, bud.
Okay, well, we're going to call it there for Miles shows. So, out of Miles shows, we're going to do Isaac since we forgot to do Isaac's. Out of Miles shows, who do you think is the top 4 for his? Or, the first place for his? I'm gonna say Crown. Or not Crown, Santa Clara.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with Ouroboros, definitely. There's just nothing like it. It's literally...
Ouroboros for me.
Ouroboros for me, too.
Jaelyn?
I'll do Santa Clara.
Yeah.
She's, dang. 5v1.
Sorry, Mitchell. I love Ink, too. Ink used to be my favorite show, but Ouroboros has grown on me a lot.
I actually have...
Are we doing my shit?
Hold on. So we actually have Allie's response to his top 4 as well. She says Ink.
Ooh!
Let's go!
I'm gonna have a little talk with her.
Destroyed.
Interesting.
Yeah, that was interesting. But here is so for Isaac's top 4. Isaac, list your top 4 again. Don't go into depth. Just say your top 4, and we'll pick from that.
All right, so Cadets 2000. You have Star Indiana 93. You have Babylon 2018. And then what was the other show? I cannot remember.
You had.
I have too many likes.
You had
shows.
Blue Devils 14.
2014 Blue Devils. Yes. All right. So for me, I'm gonna have to easy go Cadets 2000. That's my favorite.
I'm going
show of
Cadets
all.
2000 as well. Cadets 2000.
I'm going to go with Fellini-esque.
All right.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna have to go
I'm also gonna have to go with that.
Ooh, Mitchell's going Star.
I like Babylon.
All right. We're all
Oh
over
my
the
god!
Owen.
Yeah, I really like Babylon, but
But you like Fellini-esque a lot more.
But you like Cadets 2000.
also
more.
But you like Star. Who doesn't like Star?
I
Everybody
like Star,
Star.
but I also like Fellini-esque.
Just
No,
let Owen,
everybody loves
Owen pick.
Cadets.
Just let Owen pick. Let Owen pick.
I love the Cadets. Don't get me wrong, homie.
Cadets 2000 is one of
yeah.
the best shows.
overall, I mean, out of those 4, I think I'm gonna have to go with Fellini-esque.
Okay,
Alright.
so I also have a special comment about that from Allie because she knows we're doing that today. So her top choice was Cadets 2000. She also
Yeah.
said, let me look at the screen. So she also said, oh, you guys are going to get mad. We can't go in this fight again. 2014 Blue Devils was the worst Blue Devils show known to man.
Oh my god.
That's what she said.
Oh my
That-
We're not going to go into that. Let's just move on.
Go
Stop.
on.
She's not here. You guys can pick that up with her in the
What
chat.
is these
Stop.
opinions?
Mitchell, stop.
Has
She
she
needs
heard
to come
2012? That
on.
was
Worst
Okay.
in 2018.
Oh my lord. There. Okay, we need everyone to chill. Okay, so
We need to go to Allie's.
yes, I'm gonna. She gave me her reasoning. So, her first show that she chose was Boston Crusaders SOS 2018. Her reasoning is
Alright.
the hardest drill book, one of the hardest drill books in DCI history, and I agree with that. Just a great general effect in general. Like Miles said earlier in the chat that Boston should have won GE. So that's what he said. And I agree SOS is a great show. We're not going to go in depth. We're just going to move from show to show. But SOS is a great show. Her next show was Carolina Crown 2014, Out of This World. Whoa, I love that show. That's one of my personal favorites. She says, there's nothing to really say besides the brass line.
I mean, yeah.
Like, coming out of E equals MC squared, I can agree with that. Her next show was Carolina Crown 2016, Relentless. You know, Medea. Great show. I love the theme of that show. Just like, you know, back in the day, got that sheriff. You know, you got the olden day Western feel. No, not funny. Dislike.
It's funny. It's funny because George Mason's indoor drumline recently, which is like a lot of members from Carolina Crown, they recently did another Western themed show, and a lot of it was like kind of a throwback to that Carolina Crown 2016 show. They used some of the same music, and so yeah, I love how George Mason did that, and they're kind of heavily affiliated with Crown as well. So yeah, I found that.
Okay, so her reasoning for this show is, once again, the brass line. And if you guys have never heard the piece Medea, I would highly recommend it because it's a great way to start off their show. Just the way how they had it flipped. And Tarpon had it flipped this year, and I wish that we did it the other way. Bum, bum.
Yes.
And we did the quieter part first and then led up to a hit. But her last show she picked was Bluecoats Kinetic Noise. She says, first of all, I think this show should have won my personal favorite Bluecoats show, and I also think that Inferno should have been second, and she said Ink was not her favorite. But even though she chose Ink, she said it wasn't her favorite that year. But she did choose Ink for Miles. So
Yeah.
And her decision for her top 4 is her favorite was Boston SOS, which was interesting. I would go out of these 4. I would go Out of This World. I love Out of This World. It's a
Me
great,
too. Yes.
It's a great like I love Boston. I'm a part of the Boston horn line, but Out of This World is great.
I'm sorry, but
It really is.
I gotta say, Kinetic Noise is especially because of that front ensemble and that battery played music that was like, ooh, that drum break is so cool. The way they use those vocals with the electronics, that drum break is hype.
Yeah.
So yeah, I gotta go with Kinetic Noise definitely.
Miles, it sounded like you were like stuttering trying to say that. You were like,
Mitchell, just say your decision. Mitchell, just say your decision.
Okay, all right. My opinion. It's gonna be weird, but SOS, because I really actually enjoyed that.
That's my second choice, but Jaelyn. No, you don't get the reason.
There's a. Okay, all right.
You don't get the reason. We gotta end this. I love you, Mitchell, but this is dragging on. We gotta end it. Jaelyn, what about you?
For the same reason of Miles, Bluecoats 2015.
Isaac?
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean,
Kinetic Noise.
I also love Kinetic Noise. The ballad, Woods, oh god, it's just so cool. I love it so much.
Mm-hmm.
And I might just be, like, in love with that ballad. Not necessarily, I mean, like, yeah, they did a phenomenal performance of it and arrangement of it. But also just the original song is just so cool. Like, listening to that is such an experience because of all the, like, layering and, like, just, like, chord work that the artist did. And then applying that to drum corps, it's such a great sound.
Mm-hmm. Isaac, did you say yours?
Yes, I said Out of This World.
Oh, yay! We're together on that one. Okay, so that was Miles and Allie shows. So join us tomorrow for the battle. This is we're not gonna really debate. We're just gonna make our decision. If there's a tie, we're gonna debate a little bit and see who wins that. And I'm gonna see if Allie can send a list before we start recording that next one. Like yes. If so, like if it's a certain core against another core, yes or no. So we'll see. But join us tomorrow for the final rankings of DCI Fight Week, and then we're back to a normal schedule. Thank you, guys.